What's happening, everybody? It's Ryan here from AUSHAMMER, bringing you another list off today. We're joined by my little bro, Brinley. Brinley, how you going, buddy?
Yeah, buddy, good to be here.
And also today's special guest, brother of the hobby, and the 50%, the good 50% of Warhammer Weekly. It's Tom. How you going, Tom?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, friends.
Good of you to join us this fine American evening and Australian morning.
Yeah, man, don't worry, the world hasn't ended yet. We're from the future. It's still good to go.
14 hours from the future. Everything's still pretty standard, man. Gotta say. Yeah. Unfortunately, Trump's still around. Sorry, matey. Also, shout out to Paul Conti for making me have to do another show early in the morning because of the American time difference. You're an asshat.
Yes, Paul is indeed that.
You just need to get up earlier, Ryan.
But he did bring a good list, so you know. All right, so today it's just going to be the three of us. We're going to go over obviously your list, Tom, and we're just going to really go into depth about that before the next episode, which is going to be. When we have a few other guests on to judge and critique you extremely harshly. You may make some enemies out of friends, who knows? So before we go into your list, the rules, pretty simple. So Paul called you out, and it's a 2K list of an army of your choice, and it needed to follow the General Handbook 2017 rules and guidelines. Other than that, you're free to do pretty much whatever you want. The idea of it is that the list is to go up against another list that would be getting played by two players of equal skill on a table that was fair. So it's pretty straightforward there. So without further ado, buddy, we'll get into this with you. What army or faction did you choose?
So I've been working on a KO, like a joint KO Fireslayer list, or joint KO Fireslayer force. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to put together a list that kind of married as in a best of both of those armies. I have a mono KO list that I've been working on, and those are kind of well-known quantities, Clown Car, swarms of engine riggers. And then I have a Fireslayer list I've been talking about with like Volkites and just a bunch of just cheesy ass shit and all that. And so I thought, well, why not? Let's do both.
Why not both?
So why not both? Yeah, let's Taco Girl it. And so what?
Yes.
So what we'll do is I took kind of a best of order list that actually solves part of the problem of KO, of doing a large blocks of KO troops, and I'll talk about that.
And I'm pretty personally disappointed that you didn't bring Nurgle, mainly because I do have a bone to pick with you.
Oh?
Yeah, you did an unlocking a long time ago with Mitch. Nurgle. Now, myself, I was younger, I was thinner, I was more naive. Watched this video and went, oh my God, that makes sense. Did he just make sense of Nurgle? Shit, this man just made sense of... Long story short, I've got a shelf full of Nurgle, and I was like coming home one day and I'm like, hey, honey, I bought all this plastic crack. And it's not cheap here in Australia, man.
So no, man, you guys have to like sell kids, right?
Yeah. Good thing you got a whole bunch of them.
And obviously that's okay because as it was mentioned earlier, it's lots of fun to make more anyway.
More kid, yes.
So you did that unlocking, and I literally went out and went, those lists are amazing, and built to those lists knowing that they were extremely flexible and that I could chop and change them. So there they all are. That's your fault.
I have to ask, how have they performed for you?
So I love the White
play against.
Before GHB 17, the Chaos Marauders with that shrine. Amazing. And I've actually tweaked it and changed it depending on how many points we're going with. I've actually got 2 of the Plague Claws.
Yep.
Because I obviously probably just don't like making friends. Dude, it was amazing. However, it took me like 2 weeks to get my wife to talk to me again.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to create marital conflict with your decisions.
Oh, dude,
right.
have you seen that plastic crack? It was worth it, man.
He spent those 2 weeks actually painting his miniatures, so it was all right.
Well, actually, no, I am a skillless old bastard, and I spent 2 weeks trying to convince other people to paint my miniatures for me.
So I apologize right now. I'm visiting Vince's house on a hobby weekend, and I am being assaulted by one of Vince's dogs. And so I apologize for this. Continue on.
That's okay. Anyway, so both thank you and I guess a big fuck you at the same time for unlocking Nurgle for me, because I feel like that video wasn't made for the internet. It was made specifically for me and my now thinner bank account. So thanks, buddy.
Well, I'm glad that you've been able to play some Nurgle and enjoy it. I know that most of your opponents probably didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's the feedback that I've always received whenever I've played my Nurgle list.
It got to the point where at some of the days where I'd go over to mates' places and play, I'd take the Nurgle list, and we always take it in turns to order pizza. If I'm not the one ordering pizza, they literally just order me a cheese pizza with extra cheese and a sprinkle of cheese. Like,
and sprinkle of cheese.
Yeah.
With a side of cheese rolls.
But what's worse is I have to pay for it still. So, yeah.
That's rough. That's rough.
Dude, it's worth it. It's for the love of the grandfather, man. It's all good.
Well, he delights in his grandchildren.
Correct, Roonies. But yeah, man, thank you so much. So, so you're going with I guess a hybrid list. Do you want to call it, if we can call it that?
Yeah. It's kind of a best of for KO and Fire Slayers, and you'll kind of see that it's using the generic Order Grand Alliance abilities. This would allow us to also bring in some of if you're using the Firestorm abilities based on the new FAQ the community article that got released today. I don't know if you all have seen it yet.
No, because we're all just got out of bed. I don't even know if I'm wearing pants, but I'm not going to look to find out.
No, that's fair. No, so they restricted the Firestorm Allegiance abilities to only Grand Alliance armies, no longer like specialized ones in matched play. And so this would, like, you could pair this with some of those, to get both Fire Slayer and KO in a city. The only one I think that does that is Hammerhall. So you just have to calculate, like, everybody else has a little bit higher bravery in this army. Whatever.
Yeah, and look, it's interesting for me. I don't own any short people, mainly because I've got really bad eyes and refuse to wear glasses. So I tried to paint one time, and it just looked like a finger painting from one of my kids. So, but every time I've never actually won a game against them.
Against Stunties?
Say again, sorry.
Against Stunties, dwarves.
Yeah, against any form of short thing, I've never won. So I've lost to KO, Fire Slayer, Stunt, just fucking everything, man. It's amazing how much of a punch they pack. So this is going to be interesting for me. You're going to be educating myself as we go through this, but also Brinley, who's, like I said earlier, new to AOS.
Yeah, I've got a really no idea.
Yeah, it's about time you fucking put the cheese down and got rid of your communist fish bastards and came over to a real game.
Oh, you leave my Tau out of this. I'll shoot you or something.
All right, Brendan, you
they
up,
were
buddy?
Good ones. Yeah, man. All right, so last episode of AUSHAMMER, we did a section about where it kind of covers what sort of hobbyist you are, and part of that about choosing an army. So this is really where, like, I really get really interested when it comes to people and their armies. But, like, what made you choose the faction and the army that you have chosen to run?
Yeah, so for a long time, so I've always been kind of a dwarf fan. Back a long time ago in the PMP, we did like a like building an army cheaply, like who could do it on like a limited budget, and it was this contest over 6 months, and I did like normal stock dwarves or dispossessed, like it was in that first year of AOS's release. And
how much did it cost to start with?
So that initial army was like $50 a month over 6 months, and I basically built you couldn't buy more until you painted everything prior, and I basically built a unit, every single war scroll that was in the compendium dwarf war scroll and all the dispossessed, and including like just everything for under $300.
Holy crap!
Yeah, but his part of it was like finding deals, buying things off eBay, stuff like that. So that was the initial dispossessed thing, and so that was a fun go of it. And that really got me into painting dwarves, and I realized I really liked the newer models, like a lot of the detail and like the long beards and those guys. And so the culmination of that project originally was I was going to build a dwarven airship. That was the plan. And I was going to make it out of like a steam tank, like invert a steam tank, and I was going to get like a balloon from a third party stuff, and I was going to do all this. And some other, like my Nurgle army popped up like right at the end of me painting those dwarves, and so I thought, well, I was going to build this for this team event that Vince and I were going to do. So I had to switch over to that, and I couldn't find the right kind of airship stuff that I wanted. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to wait.
Oh, first world problem.
Yeah, I know, really. Fire Slayers. Yeah, Fire Slayers had just released. They were really expensive, and I didn't like their like poses, like all their naked dwarf bodies and like their wide open poses, like because they're almost mono pose if you look at them. And so there are just aspects of it that I just didn't like. I liked the Slayer aesthetic, but I didn't like that. So let's fast forward 2 years. So, and by the way, I was bitching this whole time about like, GW, you need to make me an airship so I don't have to make my own. So like, if you go watch our Warhammer Weeklies from 2015, you'll find me bitching about no, I guess this is 2015, I think. 2016. Beginning of 2016. You'll find me bitching about, we're in like 9 months into AOS, about airships, dwarves and airships, and I want my airship, give me my airship. Yep. So, and then like 2 years later, GW drops like the KO.
And it was all thanks to you, man. It must have
you feel a bit suspicious, maybe? Like, like one of the designers was like listening to your show and they're like, oh my God, dwarven airships. Oh
maybe.
My God.
I know, because like it was a thing in their aesthetic. Like it was a thing that was in their world.
They could have brought it out earlier, man, but every time they watched you bitch, they were like, let's make this guy wait an extra 3 months.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so I really wanted dwarven airships. I really wanted something that was more classic in aesthetics. So I liked beards. I liked hair. I liked all those things. And so when KO initially dropped, I was actually frustrated because I felt like this release was like targeted at me. And I didn't like it. I didn't like all the metal. Like it was all metal, no actual skin, no beards, none of that. And so I was like, I'm not going to buy in, I don't think. Like I wanted to, but and so I got thinking about it, and I was frustrated. And I was like, well, what conversions could I do? And so I started like chewing on it, and I was like, well, I really like Slayers. Like I like their beard, like I like their heads and all their stuff and their weapons. I just hated their bodies. And then I began like kind of like chewing, like cycling through this, and I realized that I was like, well, what if I did? Oh, that's a terrible idea. I was like, what if I did Slayer Sky Pirates? Oh my God, long drawn Slayers, and then it all clicked. Like the Man of War, like not Man of War, the original Dogs of War army, like there, and so like this. Suddenly, like everything fell into place, because what I wanted to do was I wanted a hobby project that I could pour time and energy into. I wanted dwarven airships, but I wanted hair and skin and all that stuff. Yeah. So I needed to do conversions. I liked the Fire Slayer, a lot of the elements, but it didn't have exactly what I wanted, and so because of the bodies and all that stuff. But I could bring all that in. I could bring the aesthetics in. Like there was a problem of like, and it even solved like small superficial problems with the army. like if you're familiar at all with like how the kits come for the Kharadron Overlords, like the Archanaut Company, which are the foot soldiers, they have like these light skyhooks that which you'll see I have a lot of them in my Archanaut Company block. But you only get like 1 per box of 10, even though you can equip 3. And so like you either had to go to bit sites and pay like out the nose, or you had to convert. And
Mate,
so I
you don't
realized
even know
that
what paying out the nose is, buddy. All right, you could bloody come to fucking Australia and New Zealand, Kura Koto, to the family in New Zealand, where your $300 initial army would cost us like $6,000.
Yeah, basically you have to walk into a financing department that is conveniently right next to Games Workshop before you walk into Games Workshop.
Yeah, you will not find a G-Dub store that isn't next door to a bank.
So inevitably, so like this is what ended up happening was I ended up settling on this because it solved all those problems, including like the company. Where so my what I did for my my skyhooks is that I like converted using the troll hammer cannons from the Iron Drakes, which are like these cannons that look like dragons' mouths. Which if you'll track, they have like they have the dragon's mouth, and the runes on like the shoulder pads are the fire runes that are on all the fire slayers.
Oh, dude,
and so like the aesthetic was like uniform across. So like the runes that were in the skin and all that are the same that were on the shoulder pads. The dragon's heads that were in like all the different kits were on the cannons, and so like all of it came together. And so it called back to the old world. Like I have a love for the old world, and so I wanted something that would echo, like it would be a reimagining something from the old world in the current world. But I mean, let's be honest. I have to buy 1 box of Fire Slayer Volkites for every box of company that I build.
Ouch.
So in
that's cheaper than
US
buying the bits.
Well, yeah, the bits aren't available. The people don't sell the Fire Slayer Mohawks, and when they do, they like evaporate immediately.
Yeah.
And so when I went into this, like I was like, well, what's keeping me back? Because this sounds like an amazing idea. And I was like, money. Money's the only thing keeping me back. And I was like, fuck it. And went with it. So I pulled the trigger.
So basically, since doing that, you're not actually just over for hobby. You've moved in with Vince because you need more money for my books. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly. My wife has kicked me out. But
I was there with my Nurgle army. All right, I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
Yeah, exactly. Have you guys seen some of my conversions and stuff like that on my Fire Slayers?
I have. I'm not too
man,
sure
I haven't
about
seen any of it. I'd love to check them out.
I can actually just pull them up real quick on here. I'll share my window for y'all.
Oh, Brindley, he said, this guy's so American.
I am. There you go.
Oh wow, that looks amazing.
Yeah, they came out really nice. So this was the first round kind of working on these guys. And since then I have a ton more Balloon Boys that I've done and other stuff. So and you can see, like, if you look off to the left, you can see the troll hammer wielders that are my cannons back there, and or on the far right you can see them back there with the shoulder pad, the standard dwarven shoulder pads and stuff. So yeah, it ended up coming out really nice, and I was really pleased with the kind of the aesthetic at the end of the day. So that's what sold me, is that it wasn't any one thing; it was a combination of all of that stuff.
Yeah. Or
what let me pull together kind of this army.
That's hot, dude. That's hot. I dig it.
So and so I really wanted to restrict myself in army building, like in this kind of thing, to stay within that kind of realm of building. You know, there may be better things that I could have pulled from the larger Grand Alliance, but the reality is even when you're in a tournament, people are building the factions that they want to build, not necessarily like what the most optimal thing are. Not everybody, obviously. But but I try to do a little bit of both. And so for the record, by the way, that those 2 boxes are $177 in Australian. Like the 2 boxes for 10 troops. It cost me 177 equivalent 177 Australian for 10 foot troops.
That's fucked up. And yet I'm still going to be going there today to buy some more plastic crap. I love this stuff.
Yeah, you going to Champside? You going to go down Champside?
I'm definitely thinking about it. That's where my boys are, man. Chermy, that's where I go. All right, so and I'm not getting you anything because last time I went there, you made me buy like fucking $100 worth of paints.
Oh, but I got more paints that I need to paint things.
Moving on. So Tom, the Army.
Yes.
What makes it a strong contender?
Yeah. So
without going into the actual list.
Yeah. So the advantage of my list is that it is the best of Fire Slayer and the best of KO. The problem with either of those armies is that inevitably you have weaknesses and you have wasted points in whatever. You have to sink points in like miscellaneous stuff in order to make your battalions and so you always have like lost utility, or there's some area of your list that's not shining. Yeah. And I kind of cut out the middleman and just went with kind of the best of both. And so that's why I went with what I did.
Fair enough. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'm just going to bring up Paul's list so we can let you hang shit on it for a little bit. Where is it? Well, alrighty.
Yep.
Wait, that's the kind of professionalism everyone can expect from me this early in the morning. All right.
There we go.
Hey, we totally understand it. I relate.
So that's this is Paul's list. He went through it in some really awesome detail. He's managed to get bang on the 2,000 points, which is always pretty cool to see when it comes to a free guild army. I have trouble with it, and it's obviously it's got those two great companies which. From personal experience, are really, really strong and make it a lot of fun to use. This army's great fun to use. It's very similar to something that I use. It's almost identical, actually. And the Hurricanum, obviously, it's sort of a given these days. It is something that I would take with mine, except there's this dude who's on this fucking cast with us right now who's putting it together and painting it for like a month, and I don't have it yet.
It's yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, damn straight. You know what? I got nothing either because it's at your house.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, so that's the list, man. Is there anything you'd like to say about it?
Yeah. So okay. So when I look at it, there's a couple things that immediately pop out that are weaknesses. The first is that he's organized his army in literally two great companies. And so they're all going to have to hang tightly together. If you look at the new scenarios, there's a lot of scenarios where you have between 4 and 6 objectives. And he's just simply not going to be able to cover all of his objectives and keep everybody in tight formation.
Good point.
So he's going to have to make choices. He has 2 centers of power here, which are the 2 companies. And they're like highly dependent on staying within range so they can like charge and do stuff like that when that stuff is activated. He only has 2 sets of shooting or he has 1 in each of those units of shooting. And so what he'd likely do is put that somewhere in the middle with the other 2 units flanking. But what that means is that charges, like if you were to hit anything that's not the handgunners, charges from that other unit is not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's going to be too much distance because he just has bodies, like between 20 and 30 models, filling up that space. So that's the first thing. To 2 centers of power. His longest range in this list is 18 inches, and that's the Celestial Hurricanum. All those handgunners have 16-inch range.
Really?
That's yes. I just pulled it up on my phone to look at it. That's a really big problem. Because he could get outranged very easily. Because I can tell you right now that Hurricanum is not going to be in the front of the pack. It's going to be in the back, right?
Yeah,
or it's going to be nested in the middle of everything. So it's not even going to be able to reach out and touch the other army. So your longest range stuff is going to be your handgunners, and they're going to be bunkered to some degree, even if they're on the front line inviting a charge. All of them aren't going to be on that front line. And again, they only have a 16-inch range.
Yeah, good point. I guess he's also what you're saying about the 2 points of power as well. They're going to have to be within, what is it, 10 inches of the Hurricanum, yeah, to reap the benefit of any of the buffs from it as well.
Yep. And if that Hurricanum takes any damage whatsoever, that range gets smaller.
Yeah,
and it pulls this entire army in if he wants to keep those buffs.
So I guess then it's powerful in that it can pack a punch, and it's got great inter-company defense, but it's easily outranged and outmaneuvered on a table that has multiple strategic points.
Yes. And then the other part of that, and this is a small part, but this is a significant part. He bought his handgunners to 20 models. Like he bought sets of two portions of handgunners. So he's right at the line for his +1 to hit in that unit. If they take a single wound, they drop that +1 to hit. Yeah. So you only have to splash a little bit of damage onto one of those units to immediately move their, even with all of his synergies, he would get to, I think, 2 up on their hit. Even a little bit of damage immediately puts him on 3 ups. And that's going to be a problem for him. Because if anybody can reach out farther than the 16 inches or wait him out a turn, because what is he going to do? Foot slog across the entire table?
Yeah, that's going to be hard.
What's the movement here? 5. So if anybody has any range that's higher than everybody's, like 5 to 6 inch, like 5-inch movement, 6-inch movement on almost everything here, except for like his general, like his mounted 2 mounted guys, which he might want to run them forward, but that's going to be a death sentence. And so what he's going to so any ranged list, my list actually isn't set up real well for this, interestingly enough, but a lot of other lists would definitely be set up for this. Like a change host would eat this list alive. Because the change host, everything has much longer range than he does, and it's gonna shoot him and make him come to them, and it would be ugly very quickly.
Which he couldn't do if he wants to use his stand and shoot orders and to hold the line.
Right. Yep. Like he could send his one of his sword, the sword and shield guards forward. Like that's a possibility. Like how he had talked about how he could ram them into another unit and then shoot at the end of his own charge phase based on the wording. So he could do that, but he has to initiate the charge, which means he has to get a bunch of those foot sloggers across the table. All the while, they're shooting.
Yeah.
He's being shot likely. So, okay. So that's where I would start.
Okay.
With some of the problems I see in his list.
Okay.
He's also, this is another very obvious problem. He's at 3, 6, 9. He's at 10 drops. He doesn't get to choose who goes first.
Which is something that'll come in handy for you, especially with the type of list that you're playing as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Of which we will bring up now. All right. I'm going to, for the second time, bring up your list, this time on purpose.
Yep.
Huh?
Okay. So just quickly, you've got the Rune Sun on Magma Drop. You've got 2. Holy crap, dude.
60.
What?
What is this madness?
My first question is going to be, Tom, do you own enough minis to field this list?
Yes, I own enough.
100 minis.
I do own enough. I don't have them painted.
Oh, you and Ryan get along well.
Yep.
That's what I'm working on. But hey, this is what I'm working on. I'll be able to field this spring. If I wanted to field this list, I could do that. I could do over half of this list. I have over half of this painted. I don't have the Volkites painted.
That is mighty, mighty impressive. Especially, you've got, what is it here? 9 light skyhooks. So we'll get into all that afterwards. But holy crap, dude. That's really cool. All right. So obviously this is your list. We'll spend a bit of time going through it now if you like. Did you want to use your War Scrolls? Or did you want to use mine?
Yeah, like I can use mine. That's fine. Let's do the Fire Slayers first. Let me share those real quick. Because this way that people can click on your list and see, like on your screen and see what my my list is as we move around. Okay, so can you guys see that?
Oh, yep. Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is I'll be running the Rune Sun on Magmadroth as my general. He's viewable here. And the advantage of, so why I went with Order Allegiance rather than like KO or Fire Slayer is obviously I wanted to have those balance points. And so this guy is my general. The trait that I've taken for the order trait is just the broadcasted 6-inch Battle Shock immunity bubble.
Yeah. Which
realistically is the same trait I would be taking if I went pure Fire Slayer. So I'm actually not losing anything by taking that trait with this guy. And that's one of his big advantages. He also has the Phoenix Stone, which is going to heal him 1 wound per round. And he's going to stay back. I have no reason to charge this guy into combat. Because what I'll do is I'll end up stretching I'll fishtail my Volkites back to this guy's bubble when I deep strike them. But I'll get there here in a minute. Okay. So the big thing, like, if you know anything about these guys, like, he has a crappy range and he's just largely terrible. He hits some stuff if it gets close. He'll spit out mortal wounds, whatever. None of that matters. He's here to do 2 things. Grant a Battle Shock immunity bubble around him. And when he uses his command ability, any Fire Slayers within 10 inches, any units within 10 inches of him are going to get to roll 3 dice when they charge instead of 2.
Damn.
So why is this important? Fire Slayer Volkites, which is the other main Volkite, or the other main unit that I'm running here. Let me pull them up. They're right here. Volkite Berserkers. I have 2 blocks of 30 of these guys. And they have their Horn of Grimnir makes it so that when they roll their charge dice, they get to re-roll 1 of their charge dice. Well, that general is giving them 3 dice to roll. So now they have 3 dice on their charge. They re-roll 1 of those 3, likely the lowest, and then they choose 2 and then drop the lowest. So let's say that, I were to hypothetically find a way to deep strike these Volkites 9 inches out. Statistically, rolling 3 dice, re-rolling 1 of those, drop the lowest, I'm going to hit a 9 almost every turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so imagine that. How might I deep strike these guys? Well, I'll jump back to the Rune Smiter on foot. The Rune Smiter on foot has an ability when you deploy him, you choose another Fire Slayer unit to deploy with him off the table, and at any point in time in the movement phase, they can pop onto the table 9 inches out from an enemy unit.
Whoa, okay, so not just from an edge, but just 9 inches out from a unit.
Anywhere, yes. This is true deep striking, like true Stormcast deep striking.
However, interestingly though, I looked on the GW website, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but we can't buy him on from GW.
No, he's in the Magmadroth kit. He only comes in the Magmadroth kit. Okay. And when you buy the Magmadroth kit, what he does is you buy the Magmadroth kit and you get enough bits to make either the Rune Sun or the Rune Lord mounted on the Magmadroth, and then you get a Rune Smiter on foot, and you get the other one of the Sun or the Rune Father on foot. And if you alternatively, you can put the Rune Smiter on the Magmadroth and then get one or the other of those other 2 guys on foot. So normally you get 3 models out of the deal.
All right.
And so when you buy a getting started box, you get the Magmadroth with all 3 of those heroes and 10 Volkites, by the way.
Oh, it's almost as if GW planned it that way.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so here's the Rune Smiter on foot. The other ability he has is, I gave him all rune keys. I technically wouldn't need the rune keys for the 20-inch range, but I did it anyways. And what this does is that in the hero phase, I can activate this guy. I pick a Fire Slayer unit within 10 or 20 inches, and until my next hero phase, that Fire Slayer unit rerolls all wound rolls, like failed wound rolls.
Or what? If fail. So
yeah,
not just rolls of 1, just all failed.
All failed. And those and I'll get back to the Fire Slayers of what they're doing here in a minute. But the thing is, I can't do this on the round that I deep strike, because this happens in the hero phase. They don't show up till the movement phase. So the first round of combat, they will not get that reroll. From the second round on, they will get those rerolls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Okay, so let's go back to the Volkites and let's talk about what they do. So I equipped them all with war picks, which means that, well, I give them war picks and shields. So what this means is on the charge, which they're going to make statistically, I roll a dice for every like if at least one of my models ends their charge within a ½ inch of any other model in their troop, okay. If it lands it within ½ inch of any model, any unit, I can choose that unit and throw all of my shields at that unit. Okay, and so all 30 models, all 30 dice, I roll a d6, and for every 6 I roll out of those 30 dice, I will do a mortal wound to that unit. This happens right away in the charge. Okay. So this is important because, like, this is going to happen before he gets to stand and shoot. This is going to happen before he can respond with his regiment. So these mortal wounds will fire off immediately.
And they're mortal. So if they go into that, if they go into those handgunners before he's able to stand and shoot, he's lost his +1.
He immediately loses his +1. That's exactly right. Statistically, I will do 10 mortal wounds with this.
Fuck.
Because I have 30 models, so 30 dice times 2. Because I have 2 deep strikes.
Yeah.
You got to remember that.
Yeah.
So, and I only need 1 model to end next to the unit that I want to throw at. Okay. So that's what happens before any other dice are rolled. Okay. So once we get in, this is actually much uglier if you're in a pure Fire Slayer list, because they can do because you do like the battalion and you get like you get 120 axe throws before you charge as well, because you extend the range of your rune and you get double axe throws from your battalion. So you'll do like 30 axe throwing wounds normally before you engage in combat. Which, let me just say, his hand cunners, if I ran that list, would implode before any charges are made. Because 120 axes are going to put on 30 wounds on guys with a 5-up save.
Yeah, so you're going to lose at least 15.
You're going to lose 2/3. You're going to lose 2/3 of them. So he's going to lose he's going to lose 15 of them. And then if I want, I can kill the rest with the shields, and they'll never actually even get a stand and shoot.
Oh man.
But that's not this list. That's the pure Fire Slayer list. Okay, so going back to this list. So we'll throw a bunch of mortal wounds. Once every model that I get into combat is going to hit on the 4-up, 4-up, -1 Ren, 1 damage. Okay. On my next round of combat, I will have a range. I'll get to use throwing axes as well, because I have a range of 8 inches, so they'll get a bunch of throwing axes. After I attack, like after my round that I charge, starting the next round, my save will drop to a 4-up. Because the shields in close combat give me a 4-up. On top of that, it's the real reason why I'm running these is because they have a base, when there are over 20 models, they have a base 4-up ward save. Like a feel no pain, just ignore all damage. Mm-hmm. So they basically have, in close combat that first round, a 5-up, 4-up, and then until he's killed 10 models, punching through both of those defenses, I'll then have a 4-up, 4-up on all 60.
Holy crap!
And they have neg-1 Ren, so all that fucking 5-up armor or 4-up armor is going to go to 5 or 6-up. So they're just going to go choppy through everything.
Holy crap!
These guys are on 32 mil bases, okay? And so when you deploy these, what you're going to want to do is to stagger them so that you get 2 ranks of fighting basically, with one guy like partially in between. But that means that I could almost encompass his entire an entire great company, and so none of them actually get to respond.
Jesus.
Because he can't have an enemy model within 3 inches of him at the end of the charge phase.
Yeah.
I could surround an entire great company and just
isn't
delete
there
that
a way
great
for you
company off the
to
table.
alter the attack characteristics of the throwing axes as well, or something?
Yeah, in the pure Fire Slayer list. That's not what this is, though.
Okay, yeah.
In the pure Fire Slayer list, it's even more brutal. But so you, with these 2 blocks of 60, you could surround and likely highly injure, if not, you would stop the whole great contingent thing from triggering completely, because all 3 units would have models within 3 inches of them. And so what you do is you choose one great company, delete it, and then you're going to turn and likely move on another great company. Okay. So that's half of my army.
Well, please tell me that's the strong half. Holy crap.
I don't know. Not really.
Oh God.
What?
So that's a double deep strike, just fucking cluster bomb. Yeah. So the other half of my point points are spent on ranged or highly immobile things. Because once that stuff drops, it's not moving a whole lot. It's moving like his units are. But I need stuff that can take objectives. I need stuff that can clear objectives. I need stuff that can move the length of the board at any point in time or threaten across the board. Okay, so that's where my my Kharadron Overlords come in. So let me swap to those War Scrolls. Oh wow, we are okay. Let's see. Jump over here. I see that. Professionalism.
Here we go. We're all about that here.
Okay, here we go. So can you guys see the scroll?
Yep.
Okay, so the bread and butter of my troops are where'd they go? Here they are. My Arcanite company. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so my Arcanite company are 30 models, which means that I have 9 light skyhooks. Here's where things get interesting. Those light skyhooks have a 24-inch range. Okay. I have 9 of them, so I have 9 default shots. I included a chemist in this list, so I go to 18 shots with these light skyhooks at 24 inches. Which means that at the top of one, if I choose to go, anything that he put on the line, I can begin shooting immediately. He will have at least 1, if not 2 rounds to have to move up before he can even threaten me at range. Okay? The profile is 4 up, 3 up, -2 Ren, D3 damage. So if these go into his gunners, they get no save. They take all of that damage. 18 shots on 4 up, 9 are going to hit, 6 are going to wound, statistically. And that means that they're going to do, on average, 12 damage each round of just thinning out all of his range damage. If by some weird chance he moves his Huracanum up or his General on Griffin, if he's foolish enough to move either of those things up, they get +1 against monsters and they get +1 against monsters and heroes. So they go to 3 up, 3 up. So those 18 shots, so those 18 shots, 12 land. Of the 12, 4 are going, or not 12. Of the 12, 8 are going to land. I'll put out 16 wounds, and I'll the first time that his General on Griffin gets within range, I'll kill it.
That's rough, man. See, for
within
short guys, short people, man, they smash out so much damage. Never underestimate a short person. All right?
So this is not the only threat, though. So I'm still going. So that's one of the threats, which is the shooty Arcanaut company. And again, they're backed up by chemists, so like, so they're buffing that. And by the way, if anybody gets within short range, 12 inches of these guys, I have 21 models that are going to kick out 2 attacks each. So I'll shoot off 42 shots from their pistols. And then
You're doing more shooting than a free guild army.
Holy crap!
And then if they finally engage me immediately, I'm at 4 up on all my attacks. So I'm not even like at the terrible normal range, like 5 up, 4 up, or whatever of like handgunners. Okay, and they're all battle shock immune because of that magma droth. So until you kill the magma droth, everybody's battle shock immune.
Yeah, and that's no small feat killing a fucking magma droth either.
So here's the most offensive thing about this. Like, all this is just brutal. You have to kill 21 of those models to begin to bite into that range threat, that 24-inch range threat. Because I can always remove models that aren't my skyhooks. So he has to put 22 wounds in order for me to lose one of those guns.
That's dirt awesome.
Okay. So that's one of my threats at range. And so this can actually sit on an objective and just fire into his lines. And I have 30 bodies, so he can't body take it from me.
Yeah.
If he gets close, they're little.
That's a lot, but you've got the throwing axes as well. So that, I mean, but that's a lot of, there's a lot of shooting here as well. Like that's Jesus.
So I'm not done. So to augment the Arcanaut company, I didn't actually put this war scroll on here. This is the only one I don't have on hand. I have a Knight Azero. I have a Knight Azeros in this list.
Bear with me 1 second. I've got it
here. You
here.
have Knight Azeros?
Of course. Okay. The Screeny Sherry thingy-mabobby, and then the Knight Azeros is right about here. So this is the one I think you. Yeah.
So this is a screen. This is a screener for me. So this is what he's going to do is he's going to run interference with my back lines if he moves like any of his like his Griffin, his general on Griffin up to threaten. Okay. This is an interceptor. The other thing that this guy will do is if I don't have anybody that I need to intercept, I will move him up against their lines or whatever I want to shoot at, and he's going to give reroll hit rolls of 1 on all shooting attacks. So, like, remember those, 18 light skyhook hits that are 3 up against heroes and monsters? Now they're 3 up reroll 1s.
Yeah, that's a really good addition. That's a really good addition for the rerolling of the ones. And the dude himself, if he gets into combat, he's not exactly shit. He's like five wounds.
He can put a couple wounds.
Yeah.
Yep, he can put a couple wounds on the enemy. And so here's the real kicker. Like, Paul escaped, like, this isn't even, like, this guy is just kind of the extra 80 points to kind of figure out and have, like, buff some of the defense, run screens and stuff like this. Against a Chaos Army, he's going to trigger off a D6 mortal wounds also to all enemy units within 8 inches once per game.
Yeah, so this is something that I'll be taking to the table next time I play against you, Brinley, you little bastard.
Right, but like, so you could fly this guy into like a little like niche spot and then drop the bomb on your next turn, and trigger on a bunch of mortal wounds on multiple units. So but that doesn't work against Paul. He'll only do a D3 mortal wounds against all Paul's units.
Yeah, but I mean, you still it's 80 points to be able to re-roll hit rolls of 1. Do you know what I mean? Within 10 inches, that's a 20-inch. Yeah, that's pretty worth. That's worth 80 points, easy. Not to mention you've got some free random there, with some pretty good hit and wound characteristics on a 5-wound hero. That's fucking definitely worth it.
And you know what Paul isn't going to do well? Spread out his units, because he's all clumped up in the tight regiment, the great regiment formations. And so that Azeris is going to fly up, and if he doesn't get picked off, like if he doesn't get prioritized, which he won't because he'll have Volkites in his face, you're going to pop the Azeros, and he's going to do a D3 mortal wounds to everything within 8, every unit within 8. He can probably catch 3 to 4 units at least with that.
That's badass, dude.
because all the heroes and everything else that's going to be around. Okay, so he's my like extra buffer. So the other ace in the hole that I have are my engine riggers. And so let me jump to those. And I've sung the praises of the engine riggers, but let me just do it one more time. These guys are probably undercosted at this point. But I'm not complaining given how hard KO was kicked in the teeth with the points adjustments in the FAQ. Okay, so the engine riggers, I'm running a unit of 9 of these guys, and these are the final kind of the final utility tool. They have a 12-inch move, and I've equipped the unit with 2 grapple launchers. What the grapple launcher does is at the end of my shooting phase, I can shoot grappling hooks at either a terrain feature that's on the table within 24 inches, or I can shoot it at a unit that has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. So basically, like any monster, normally you could shoot like your own ships with this, the grapple launcher, but basically anything that has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. And what it does is if you roll a 4 or more, I'm rolling 2 dice at this 4, so 75% of the time this is going to go off. I will immediately move towards that target, up to 3 inches away from an enemy target, or to the target if it's terrain.
Jeez.
So this is a unit that can cover 36 inches. Or I can like shoot, let's say that he moves his griffin out onto a flank to charge. These guys will move like 12 inches towards him probably, shoot their, or maybe not, they may stay far enough away, shoot their grapples, and then immediately zip line everybody within 3 inches for a 3-inch charge on the griffin. Now let me tell you what that 3-inch charge is going to do. The other 7 are equipped with athermatic saws, which are the chain swords. They have 1 attack each base. They're 3 up, 2 up, -2 Ren, D3 damage.
What?
So I will have 8 of these attacks. If I choose to not buff that, remember my chemist that was buffing my Arcanaut company and doubling my shots? If I don't want to double those shots, I could double my chainsaw attacks.
What?
So I would go to 15 chainsaw attacks.
You're gonna have to
7 of
stop,
them
mate. If you keep talking, Brindley's gonna buy a fucking army. All right.
Yeah, I'm just like,
sorry.
I'm just like sitting here. I'm just like, how much are these units now?
So with that athermatic saw, I'm gonna do 15 attacks buffed up at 3 up, 2 up. That means that of those 15 attacks, 10 will hit. And then of those 10, like 1.5, probably 2 will miss. So 8 will land. I will have a -2 Rend. So that 4-up save on that Griffin will go to a 6-up. So of the 8, he's going to statistically save 1 of those 8, maybe 2, and he's probably going to take 14 wounds, 12 to 14 wounds. So I'm going to ace that bird the first time it moves forward.
It's just going to get squashed.
Yeah.
Either through shooting or through the engine riggers. Now, here's the obviously all this is ridiculous, but here's the most offensive thing. So these guys have a base 12-inch move. They have guns that shoot 12 inches, and those guns are 3 up, 3 attacks, 3 up, 4 up, -1 Rend, 1 damage.
Yep.
So these 9 models will have, because only the guys with chainsaws have these guns. So these 9 models will have 21 attacks at 3 up, 4 up, -1 Rend. Meaning that of those 21, when they move to shoot something within range, which they have a 24-inch range, because they can move up 12 and then shoot 12.
Yeah.
So of the 21 attacks, 14 are gonna hit, 7 are gonna wound at -1 Rend, 1 damage.
And
that's
also
just splash damage.
They're 2 wound models, and they've got a pretty decent fucking bravery on them as well.
Well, and they're a 4-up save. By the way, that bravery is higher. Let me point that out. That bravery is higher if I'm playing fires with the Firestorm abilities.
Oh god, that's pretty cool. All right,
So that's the list. It can get almost anywhere in the table it needs to be for objectives because of those engine riggers.
Yeah.
The 2 deep strikes, any weakness anywhere, I'm going to exploit.
Yeah.
And I I have large enough blocks. So likely how I would imagine that this would go down is that I am only 7 drops, so I'll win drops. So I'll get to choose who goes first. What I will do is I will make him go first. He can do nothing to me at the top of 1. No one is within range. No one has a long enough range, no ability to reach out and touch me at all.
Yep.
If he moves forward, then he moves forward. If he doesn't, he stands still and he's fine. Whatever. But he does nothing. He buffs up and he bunkers. Okay? So I, at the top of 1, or the bottom of 1, then, I will move up my company 4 inches. If he has deployed anyone on the line, I can reach 4 inches back with my skyhooks. I'll put 18 shots into one of his handgunner units, likely, unless he's positioned them way back, and then I'll just start whittling away at other stuff. And I'll likely hold the Fire Slayers. I don't need to deep strike with them. So I'll wait a turn, see if I win on the next roll. I'll probably move my Knight of Zeros out to be like interpose it in between the like out front of my line, but not close enough for him to shoot at, so that it can easily intercept if any of his if his Griffin comes forward. And then what's going to happen is I'll put a round of shooting into him, and then he'll roll initiative. Then we'll roll initiative. And what's likely going to happen is that, let's say that if he wins, he has to move up, and he still can't get any of my models within range. Because like, so I would have moved up just enough to get his models within range, and so he would likely going to be at anywhere between 21 inches, maybe. He has to cover 9 inches in order to get anybody within his gun ranges.
Holy crap!
So I'll let him move up, and he may or may not move up. He may just wait. If he waits, I'm just going to then I get another round of just moving up a little bit and shooting him. At that point, I would probably I'll have thinned out one, or because again, remember that these skyhooks are dealing like, what was it, 18 against those guys, 18-9, 2/3 hit, so 6. These guys are doing 12 wounds around to those blocks of handgunners. So I will kill one of the blocks of handgunners at the top of 2 or bottom of 2. None of his handgunners will be in range yet.
And with all that ram, you're almost guaranteed to as well.
Well, no, they statistically it shaves. He's a 5-up save, so it moves the handgunners to a 0, no save. Like he can't do anything to stop that damage from coming in.
Yeah.
So hold on, just a minute. What? Oh, yeah, that's a good call. Vince pointed out that he does have staunch defender.
Yes.
So he would likely have the +1 save. So he'll have 6-ups, not 5, not 0s. So I'll have at least 6-ups on the on those saves, which won't likely only 6. So it'll do 2 less damage. On average, I'll be doing 10 to each of those blocks every turn. Still more than enough to put him down. And technically, I don't know if he's Battle Shock immune or not. Because if he takes a staunch defender for the save AC, he's not immune to Battle Shock. So he's going to have to make a decision there.
Yeah.
Because those 10 wounds are going to cause Battle Shock. Now, he does have some Battle Shock resistance, so I don't want to negate that. And so I'm going to wait him out. I'm going to shoot some of his stuff. I'm going to move up on objectives because he doesn't have anything to actually move up on objectives quickly. And as soon as he kind of moves in positions and jockeys, I'm going to eliminate if his stuff moves up, I'm going to straight eliminate. I'm going to get at least 2 rounds of shooting before any of his stuff would get in range to shoot.
Yeah, well, the only real sort of mobile units he's got is the Griffin, General on Griffin, obviously, and the General on Warhorse if he wanted to get it out there. Which
but he's not. He's going to bury the General on Warhorse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so the funny thing is that if he moves forward to engage me, I can deep strike those Fire Slayers into his back line.
Yeah, and if he moves forward to engage you, then he won't be using Hold the Line.
Yep. And I would expect that he would be using the Hold the Line to. So I'm going to basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to force him outside of his comfort zone. I won't let him play the style of play that he wants to play because I outrange him.
Oh, Paul, are you listening to this, man? Tom's messing with you, bro.
This is out of control. This is some serious stuff going on here.
So in a perfect world, Paul, how I would improve your list? Do I get to do that now?
Next episode?
No, I think you're more than welcome to give Paul a little something because I'm pretty sure he's going to give it back as well.
Yeah.
Sure. What I would say is that you need to drop the Hurricanum. The Hurricanum was the wrong move, and you knew it was. You were wrestling with that. You felt like the Hurricanum was the wrong move, and you're right. You need your Hellstorm rocket batteries back. That you need the reach. You need the range threat. So like
why,
two Hellstorm. Like how much?
Why do you think
how much
the batteries though? Because I mean the cannons are still pretty viable.
They are. The Hellstorm don't need line of sight, so he can hide them. Like you're not hiding these big units, but he can hide the Hellstorms, so they're going to be protected from being sniped. And the Hellstorms will also they do lots of damage. Like they have the potential to do lots of damage, more so than even the cannons.
Yeah, and I mean the mortars are the same. They ignore cover as well, but I think they're not as good.
Right. So I think the Hellstorm is the right move. Or he just needs more ranged threat because the problem is these guys get outranged too easily. And I only really have one unit that's putting damage at range, that significant range. But obviously that's more than enough to thin out those handgunner units such that when I engage in combat, I'm not scared of your swordsmen or any of that stuff at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my list.
Man, that's tough as. Brinley, any questions, buddy?
As you can see, I've been joined by our third co-host, my son Flynn. He's come to inform me that Peppa Pig is finished and he's going to the shops somehow. I don't know if he's got his driver's license yet, but we'll find out. No, I don't really have any questions. It's a lot to think about. It's actually a really interesting list. You put a lot of thought into the synergy. I can't wait to go through it in a bit more detail and just pick out at it. And man, it looks amazing.
Yeah. What about weak points? What do you think your weak points are?
Drops.
Drops.
Drops. So the two biggest threats to my list would be to be outdropped and to be zoned off the board. Right. Because if he has, if I were to play like a highly mobile like Vanguard Wing would be the nightmare. But that would change how I would drop against a Vanguard Wing. Like I would maybe put one block of Fire Slayers up in the heavens. I wouldn't put both of them. Because against the Vanguard Wing, they could push you almost completely off the table. Just because of how they can spread out. You wouldn't actually be able to drop real well. So being outdropped is going to be a problem because, but even for like a list alpha striking me, they have to kill all of my rune sun, and that'll make the charges on the Fire Slayers less reliable.
Yeah,
and it'll make it so that they lose battle shock immunity, as well as the Arcanaut Company losing battle shock immunity. So the advantage of this list is that that company normally, in a normal KO list, you have to go first in order to turn on your battle shock immunity.
Yeah.
And so this list negates that, but that means that then the Fire Slayer General becomes a gate to have to be killed before you can then lay into the company and battle shock them off the table. I have tons of bodies, so mortal wounds aren't that big of a concern to me. I can eat most of those mortal wounds. Like I said, I can take tons of wounds on my company unit without losing any effectiveness. If you can really put a lot of wounds into one of the Volkite company or the Volkite Berserkers, they'll collapse because after they get under 20 models, that 4-up ward becomes a 5-up ward, and so it does begin to become painful for them. So they will lose effectiveness. But their initial punch is going to be, it'll cripple many armies. if Paul deploys very carefully, it would limit how well I could encapsulate his army, or it could also limit how, like, so if he depending on how he deploys, is going to actually change, like where I would drop the Volkites and stuff like that. Because what I'm going to need to do is hit corners where multiple units are coming together, or they're overlapping. Because the idea is that you want to negate. So the big weakness of the Free Peoples is you want to engage multiple units at the same time so they can't respond and help their buddies.
Yeah.
And the problem is that if Paul wants to protect his handgunners, he has to have units in front and behind. Otherwise, I will drop on both sides.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think a lot of it is dependent on the table, right? So if the table has 2 objectives, it's going to be different to if it has 6. Or if this is just a straight out slugfest, last man standing style, then obviously the play style is going to differ. The strategy will differ. The way that you'd utilize that's like deep striking and things like that is going to differ.
Yep.
Personally, I see exactly what you're saying. It would be kind of cool if what you were saying, I think, is pretty accurate with the Hurricanum. However, there's also the option for something like, and I'm just going to chuck it in there for shits and giggles, but like a Griffhound or 2, because if you're dropping in somewhere, then that's going to be kind of handy. But again, it all depends on your ally points and things like that. So I can see, and it's very hard as well seeing a list like the one that you've just brought now. That's a real strong list, and Free Guild are very close to my heart too. So it's hard to see something a list like that and go, wow, that's fucking tough as nails. Like that's a really strong list, man. And yeah,
the irony is this. As I mentioned earlier, the irony is that this is not my strongest list. This was my fun, semi-competitive list that I brought.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I'd love to see your full out douche McCheese list. It's gonna be terrifying. Yeah.
That's the stuff those are the type of lists that win, big GTs, and those I generally don't put out there. So
probably not this one coming, but feel free to bring a list down to CanCon, bro. It's just a plane trip away. If you want to come down to Aussie.
Just an 18-hour flight to like the coldest capital city ever.
Yeah, it's great.
My wife would love to visit.
Yeah.
Man, just pack up those fire slayers and on you come. We'll organise Doom and we can all catch up for a beer. Pub hammer.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
The other question is, keeping in mind that you're judging the second round contenders, if you win, who would you call out as the first contender in the second match?
A contender against me or a contender against somebody else?
No. So win or lose, you won't be competing in the second match. You'll be judging. So what will happen is you'll pick the first contender, and they're then allowed to pick their opponent.
Has Mitch been called out yet? MC1 Gamer?
Mitch hasn't been called out yet. However, I do believe he is judging your list, possibly. So you have to be nice.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe Relian. I think Relian would be able to put up. Actually, you know what? How about Nico? You guys know Nico?
Yeah, not me. But wait, is he in? Is he in the Grand Alliance?
He's a UK. Yeah, he's a UK guy. He's on TGA. A great poster, a great very, very active. I think Nico would be a good person to have on. Nico has very unusual lists like myself. Not saying that Brad doesn't. Brad's great, but Nico or Brad is who I would say.
Okay, well, let's go with well, we haven't had a prisoner of Her Majesty on the show yet, so other than ourselves. So let's I think that's a goer. We'll sort that out offline.
Yep,
that's really cool. So what's going to happen now is we've got both the lists. I'm going to invite a few judges to come on. Hopefully, Vince is pretty keen because I know that he is always honest when it comes to your lists and armies. And obviously, possibly Mitch and Doom and Darkness if we can organise it.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, just to get a good mix in, man. So we've got who you'd call out, so that's good. And the list, man, that's absolutely nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So, Paul,
that's crazy.
Paul, if you're out there, buddy, let's catch up later. Because now I'm looking at all of my free guild, going, I should really rebuild my lists to try and deal with something like that. Because that's something I haven't actually thought about. Maybe that's why I lose against them all the time. I don't know. I don't even want to play against that list, man. Let alone the GT list. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. Holy heck. All right. Well, that brings us to the end. Tom, thank you very, very much for joining us this evening, this morning. I don't even know anymore. And thank you, Vince, for your 3-second contribution.
Vince is diligently working on a project of ours over here.
Oh, there he is.
I'm just glad at least one of you's getting some work done. All right, you're sitting here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The rest of us, yeah. I will let you get back to work with Vince, and thank you again, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, don't forget, you guys are always welcome down here in Australia if you fancy a game against some real players.
Yeah,
that would be delightful.
And maybe one day, once I've sold enough children, I'll get enough money to come over there and jump on one of your guys' GTs. So
that'd be sweet too.
Yeah, man, definitely. All right, dude. Thank you again, and we'll catch up again soon. Yeah.
Yep. Sounds great.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Brinley, buddy, as always, been awesome to see you. I'll probably catch up with you again later. If you guys if you guys like what you saw today and you like Tom's list, go out and get some. Would be my advice straight away, because there's just not enough stunties around already. And as you can see, there can be a lot of fun.
Stunties and airships.
Yeah, definitely. So stay tuned, like and subscribe to the channel, because we'll be having the judging probably up next week or the week after. Tom, it'd be great if we could have you back again if you've got the time.
Yeah,
and we'll just rip you apart for good or bad. We'll see how it goes, man. All righty?
Yeah, man.
Good. Cheers, boys. Catch us again soon.
See you, mate.